Jesus even talks about how he can't put new wine into old wineskins. And so literally, like, we are expecting God to do new things in our lives, and we're expecting God to do a new thing, but we still have old wineskins. All right, guys, I've been gone for a minute, and I know it's pretty bad. I don't even have a reason for why. Life been lifing, but that's not an excuse. So it is what it is. Give me some grace, okay? Just give me some grace. But I'm back. That's all that matters, and it's the new year. And so, of course, we have to talk about God doing a new thing. But no, I really just wanted to talk about when the Lord does a new thing. I mean, it's a new year. And I know a lot of people come into the new year with expectations of what God's going to do. We do our vision boards, we do our prayer boards, our prayer journals, we do all the things. And we're having all these expectations for God doing the new thing for this year. You know, new year, new me, all that fun stuff. But what does the Lord have to say about when he's doing a new thing? So I want to go to Isaiah 43. And I want to read verses 18 and 19, and I don't want to mess them up, so I'm going to actually read them from the Bible instead of off the top of my head. So it says, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing, now it springs up, do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." And in that scripture, I really just wanted to hone in on that question that says, do you not perceive it? So a lot of times when God is doing a new thing, we don't perceive that he's doing a new thing, and we miss out on an opportunity to see God do things differently in our lives. Like, we're human. We love comfortability. We love templates. We love to have an idea of how things are going to go, but God does not always work like that. Actually, God never works like that. He never works like that. He doesn't work the way that we think that he should. And so when the scripture talks about, like, do you not perceive it? A lot of times we hold on to those former things so tightly. Like it says, forget the former things, do not dwell on the things of the past. We hold on to those former things so tightly that we don't get to even perceive the new thing. Part of us doesn't even want to perceive the new thing. We don't want to forget the old habits, forget the old relationships. We don't want to forget the old places and spaces that we used to be in because they're comfortable, because they give us the things that we want. But God is like, I'm doing new things in your life and you don't even perceive it. And when you really think about that, like, how sad would that be for us to come into this new year and God's like, I have great things for you, I have new things for you, and you don't even perceive it. You don't even see what I'm doing because you're so caught up into the old things and the old ways. And I think we all fall victim to that at times. I know there have been times in my life where I'm like, God, I like things to go this way. We're cruising, we're chilling. Please not. Not right now. Because when we think about new things, right? Sometimes we think about, like, God's gonna give me a new house, he's gonna give me a new car, he's gonna give me a new woman, he's gonna give me a new, like, he's gonna give me a new this and that. But what about when God has given us new things that are hard? Like, what if God is calling us to a new way of living? What if God is calling us to new habits? That means that we have to get rid of bad habits that we really enjoy doing. What if God is calling us into new relationships, which means that we have to prune some of our old relationships? And so when we think about that new, do we really perceive it? Are we taking space and time to forget the former things and really see the new things that God is trying to do in our life? And another big question too is when when God is trying to do new things in our lives, a lot of time, again, there are those old things that we have to let go of. And so when we let go of that old thing and God transferred that new thing into our hand, it doesn't always happen instantly. Like, January 1st is going to roll around and it's just going to be like, new. Everything's just going to pour into our laps. Like, no, there is a process. There are things that we have to go through and learn in order for us to get the new. And I feel like a lot of times that's where we struggle, right? Because it's like, all right, God, I let go of this old thing. Now give me something to replace it. But God is like, okay, you've let go of this old thing. You've taken the step to trust in me and to believe in me. Now, will you trust me even more to be okay without the old thing, and also to be okay waiting for the new thing. And it's a lot of times in that space, in that in between, in that middle part where we turn back to those old things, the old habits, the old spaces, the old friendships that were not good for us, the old, again, those places and things that God is really calling us to let go of. And so what is it, once we perceive the new thing, what is it that God is telling us or calling us to do in this in between? Like, how are you fostering that space in between letting go of the old thing and taking hold of the new thing? And a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it, we waste those spaces of that space. Well, really it is grace that God gives us between letting go of the old and taking hold of the new, because he wants to prepare us for the new. And like I said, I'm really guilty of that, of wasting that space and being like, why am I here? I don't feel like waiting. I'm tired of waiting. I'm finna do something by myself. Forget it. And that's when we get ourselves in trouble. Okay. That's when we find ourselves in places and spaces we shouldn't be in. So let's not do that this new year. And I'm also talking to myself, and we just really take hold of where God has us and trusting him to bring us that new thing. So like in this new year, really take time to sit with the Lord and be like, all right, God, I'm pruning, or you're pruning me of old things. You know, I'm forgetting the old people I used to hang out with, and the old spaces I used to be in, and the old habits I used to have. And I'm ready for new. So God, what am I going to do in the meantime? Do you want me to just be still and sit in your presence and grow in intimacy with you? That's something that the Lord is really challenging me to do, because I am a doer. I like to do things. I like to fix things. I like to make things all fit into a nice little pretty box. And God is like, that's not your job. You're trying to take my role. And so I need you to be still, and I need you to grow in intimacy with me. Meaning that you trust me to move without you having a hand in things. And that's so difficult for me. I'm just like, you sure you don't need me to help? Are you sure? There's nothing I could do here. But God has really been growing me and pruning me and stretching me in that area of getting rid of the old and taking hold of the new. And so really spend time with the Lord as this new year takes place, and seek the Lord about what is it that he wants you to do in this in-between phase. What is it how does he want you to wait? How does he want you to trust? What does that look like for you? Because for some, like I said, for me, it's be still and rest. For some, it could be God's like, hey, I need you to take this step of faith and you need to do X, Y, and Z. And so really lean into the Lord during that time, and just trust in him enough to let go of the old things. Like, again, we just get so comfortable. We're human. It's normal. We like that comfortability. We like to be able to guess how things are going to go. But it's in that comfortability where even we grow comfortable with God, right? Like we just be like, okay, I'm going to read my word. I'm going to pray, new day, whatever. Read my word, pray, new day. But it's in that those moments where we don't know what's happening, and those moments where we can't guess what's going to happen, where God is doing a new thing and we really have to trust and press into him. And so God uses those moments of discomfort, those moments of unexpected things happening, for him to really push us closer to him. And I really believe that the Lord wants us to just lean into him as he does the new thing in our lives this year, to really just trust in him and to believe that he is a God who is able to redeem and restore. Because a lot of times too, we think that, and I know I have thought this, I'm like, God, like I've given up so many things, so many things for you. And I have, seen good things, or things that I perceived as good that weren't too bad. Might not have been the best, but like they weren't bad. I've seen those things or I've had to let those things walk out of my life, or I've seen those things walk out of my life. And it's like, in those moments, like, do you trust God to believe that he will restore and redeem those old things for new. And another thing too, as I'm just talking, like Jesus even talks about how he can't put new wine into old wineskins. And so literally, like, we are expecting God to do new things in our lives, and we're expecting God to do a new thing, but we still have old wineskins. Like, we're still, again, living in the same old way, having the same old habits, and we're expecting God to do something new. And God's like, if I give you, like he says in the word, if I put new wine into you and you still have the old wineskins, you're gonna break. It's gonna burst. So no. And we're sitting there begging God, praying, crying, seeking God, like, God, I'm ready for the new thing. And God's like, you're not. And so that's why I say, like, really press into what does it look like for me in this season to sit with, I've given God the old thing and now I'm waiting for God to give me the new thing. Like, what does that look like for me? And really just trusting the Lord through those seasons, because I know they're very difficult. Like I said, like, waiting for me is, I don't like to wait. I really don't. I don't like waiting. It's not fun to me. It's just kind of, again, I'm a doer, so I'm always like, no. No, thank you. I'd rather kind of do things myself. But God is like, no, babe, that's not how it works. Like, well, and again, the thing about God is going to let you do what you want to do, right? He's a gentleman. So he's not going to force you to do anything. You don't want to wait. God's like, go ahead, don't wait. And then I'll be right here when you find out it didn't work out for you. Or I'll be right here when you try to force it to work and you waste your time and you got to come back. So in those moments when, like, you're waiting for the Lord, again, trust in him, that if God has called you to release those former things, those old things in your past, like, God is going to replace them with new things. It might look very different than what you thought, but God is a God who redeems and restores. And there's not one person, and this is something I've had to remind myself in the past couple of months, there's not one person in the word where God just was like, good job, you did what I said and I'm just gonna leave you. Like, no. God is faithful. Every person in the word, God he saw them to the end. Like, even with Job, when Job was so righteous and yet he lost everything. Like, God didn't say, good job, Job, you were righteous, you lost everything and goodbye. He was like, no, you lost those old things, but I'm gonna give you new things that are far, greater and more bountiful than you had before. With Abraham, when God was like, hey, leave your country, God didn't leave Abraham when he found the country and was like, all right, Abraham, you left, now goodbye. No, God, like, sought him to the end. He allowed Abraham to have a child. He blessed him with descendants. And so God is always faithful. We even look at the life of Jesus. Like, God didn't leave Jesus on that cross and in that tomb. Like, he allowed Jesus to get up. He sought that to the end. And so when you're giving up things for God, when you're giving up those old things, those former things, like, God is going to see you to the end. He's going to give you those new things that you've been praying for, those new things that you've been perceiving. But again, the thing with that perceiving is, are you creating space to perceive it? Are you holding on so tightly to those old things that you're like, I don't even care about the new. I don't even want to see the new, because these things are comfortable. And like I said, I get it. Like, I've been there when it's like, sometimes it's like, God, I want what I want. And I am having a lot of trouble releasing the old. And the thing about God too is, like, he loves your honesty, right? If you're having difficulty releasing the old, he gets it. He gets it. We're human. And so that's why I love God so much. I feel like God is the one person that I can be 110% honest with and never face judgment. He's so kind. He's so compassionate. He's so caring. But he also holds you to a high standard. So he's like, hey, my child, like, I get it. I get that you're really having difficulty letting go of these old things, but come on, get up. I got better for you. And so in this new year, I just pray that you take hold of the new thing that God has for you. But the first thing you have to do is perceive that God is doing a new thing. If you're holding on to those old things too much, you won't perceive it. You're going to miss it, that God's doing a new thing. And the second thing is just to make sure that you are letting go of those old things, which means you got to trust in God. You got to trust in God and believe that God has something better for you than those old things, those old habits, again, those old relationships, those old places. Like, God has better for you. And then the last thing is to inquire of the Lord, what do you want me to do with this space that I'm in between letting go of the old things and taking hold of the new? So I've let go of the old. I haven't taken hold of the new yet. But God, what do you want me to do in this space? Do you want me to grow in intimacy with you? Do you want me to get connected, in groups in my church? Do you want me to, just different things like that? What does God want you to do? Does he want you to just sit with him? Does he want you to take a step of faith? And so, just make sure that when you're in this new year, you're being able to put yourself in a position where you can take hold of everything that God has for you. And so, guys, I'm super excited for the year. I'm hopeful for all of you that you really do get to see God work in your life and do those new things in your life that you've been praying for as you let go of the old. So as always, guys, I love you. God loves you. See you soon.